Thank
Thank
you,
you.
and good morning, everybody. For those that have joined us, if you wouldn't mind just muting your microphone and keeping your camera off as the session is being recorded. But yes, my name is Amanda Jenkins and I've got my colleague Julie who's helping me today. Apologies for the confined area. We are moving into a new studio soon, so we are in a little bit of a temporary area at the moment, so we are a little bit confined. We're going to use a nice open chair to demonstrate the products, and of course we've got Julie who's very able-bodied, but hopefully the information that we share you'll be able to use that in your scenarios. We're not moving and handling advisors, we're here just to talk about the products and the features of them. But the session today is to talk about toilet hygiene, dressing, access slings. It's always a bit of a worry when somebody rings up and says they need a toilet sling, because we need to understand a little bit more about the patient and their ability in order to suggest a style. So, you know, when we're looking at toilet slings, we need to understand what's needed, because a lot of full body slings will allow you to carry out a hygiene transfer. So to start with, I'm just going to ask Alice if she can just kindly bring up an image of our standard fast fit universal sling so that you can visualize the access you get from a full body sling. We just scroll through the photographs here and you can see that there's enough aperture there to carry out a hygiene transfer. So when somebody says I need a toileting sling, it's just to allow access for hygiene. So this is perfectly possible with full body slings, divided leg slings. However, of course, you need to remove clothing, which is something that carers prefer not to do because it saves time. So we know that. But just to understand that it is possible with a full body sling. Thanks, Alice, if you come back. However, if someone does need a more access to get to clothing, a bigger aperture, then we can look at effectively the toilet slings. So they are called many things. So hygiene, access, dressing, toileting. But you know, you need to understand the capabilities first of that client. So we'll look at the best case scenario. So we're looking at somebody that's got really good tone. They are able to support themselves. They can help and assist. So what do we use? The first style we're going to look at is the toilet sling, access hygiene. We call it an access sling. And you can see there's not much to it. So this is where we really need to very carefully assess, because you can see compared to a full body sling, there's not much support from this. But we'll just go back to the website for a minute. Alice, if you wouldn't mind just pulling up the information. So on the website now, we have a lot of information for you to help, to support the training, to provide all the extra information you require. So there's good photographs. You can see exactly what the sling looks like on a person, the access you get. And then there's further information underneath. So there's a data sheet. So data sheets are downloadable. All the information about this product is there. So bullet points on its features, sizing, where to measure, fabric, washing instructions, things like that. So it's complete for your record. There is also a sling shape. You can see what it looks like. And again, measurements of the product, size guide, and instructions, which shows you you scroll down to the product and it will show you a step-by-step fitting instruction there. So thanks, Alice, if you come back. So that's all there for your reference after the session. But if we just look at this sling, so this is standard sling. The Silvalea version is slightly different. It has some scalloping to the edge, to the inside of the leg. Let me just hold that there. So on the inside of the leg here, there's some scalloping. We also have a Velcro and a clunk click. Velcro, great, as long as it's not clogged up. Always encourage people to close it when it's not in use, because if it gets clogged and matted, it won't be effective. But we also have a plunk click buckle. One of the other features is that the waistband is stitched right to the very sides, as far as wide as possible, which means it fits here rather than at the back where it's a bit looser. So that gives more support because the way it's stitched as far as we can do to the sides. So I'm going to put one on Julie. I'm using one without padding under the arms. There's two versions, no padding or padding. So I'm just going to put this on so we can see what it looks like. Now, easy for carers because, of course, we're not getting it right down. We're putting it around the body. Haven't got to struggle to get it down behind. Julie, of course, is helping me. She's being very compliant. Legs are padded. So padded legs, which will keep their shape. They won't scrunch up. They'll keep their shape under the thigh. We just insert those. And then generally we would cross. So cross the legs through the loop at the bottom. This is to help prevent the legs from splaying. However, if you've got somebody that's naturally or fixed in that position and you don't need to cross, then if you've risk assessed, then that's fine. So we've crossed the legs, arms are on the outside. I'm just going to hook it up. And we're going to go on long leg, green shoulder, different colour coding. Of course, we know we've worked out that it's the green for this one. Positioning depends on, you know, the spreader bar, what position you need that client to be in. So working it all out is important. So I'm just going to take up the slack, just going to show you what it looks like on Julie. Check that we've not got anything caught up. All right. So we just look round. We can see lots of access. So this is the beauty of this style of sling. Lots of access for a hygiene transfer. And it means that we haven't got to take all the clothing off, as long as we've got baggy clothing. And then, of course, it's suitable. So one thing we need to make sure is this is a sling that we're looking at someone that's got really good to reasonable upper body strength. If they've got poorer tone or they're likely to lose tone, what can happen? Then Julie, if she loses tone, this is likely to happen. So in that scenario, we're thinking, right, this isn't going to be suitable. So if there's a potential for this, we need to really think about it. However, there are a couple of tips that we can share that will help to lengthen the life of using this style if needed. So I'm just going to take Julie down and we're going to put it on with a bit more care and explain a couple of the features. So I'll take it off. We'll take it off because the first thing to do is the toilet sling needs to fit really firmly. It's got to fit. It's not to be generous. It can't allow for growth. So you've got to think about the fit. So quite often it's a good idea to go down a size. I'm going to put on a smaller size. Julie's, this was a medium. Usually, you know, standard medium is suitable, but I'm actually going to go down to a small. So that's the first thing, is to think about the sizing. The second thing is, if we are going to remove clothing, make sure you've loosened it. You've undone the button, you've shimmied it down a bit. So we just need to make sure that it's not tucked in. So make sure it's pulled down. And then we fit the waistband as firmly as possible at the waist. It's a waistband, not a chest band. So it needs to stay down in position, because if you start too high, as the hoist takes up the slack, it's just going to ride up. It's going to bite it under the arms. So it's really important to fit it at the waist and under the bust so that it is in position. And the clunk click is as firm as possible. So make sure you've got it fitted as firm as possible. You've got a webbing strap there, which will pull, you can pull on to keep it in place. So we've done that, we fitted it low. We'll just apply the legs. Again, we're going to cross them through and bring in the hoist. Again, the arms are going to be on the outside so that there's a bit more stability there. So we've gone down a size, we fitted it low, and we fitted it firmly. The next tip is, as the hoist takes up the slack, the body will naturally thin out. At that point, the waistband may slacken off. It's really important then just to check it and tighten it. I mean, it has loosened a little bit here, so just pulling the webbing strap, that will all help to keep the sling down and in position. So let's have a look now. They've still got the access, but if Julie was to lose tone now, you're trying. She's really trying, and you bring your knees up a bit. So just by doing a couple of little things like that, it's helping then to lengthen the life of this, as I said. So with clothing, now we've got some pants on. So just to explain that these baggy pants here, loose pants, can then be eased back to access the area. So as long as you've got, you know, loose clothing, then you will get enough hygiene area there. So just pulling them back, you can see how far we can get them down, hopefully, although they're quite pale. It should help. So that basically is the standard access sling. Don't know if there's any questions, Alice, on that one that you haven't been able to answer.
We haven't had any questions yet, Mandy.
Okay. Right, let me just also just give you another little idea about dignity, basically, and if you need to transfer someone and cover them up, then you can, with this style, insert the leg paddle, just take it through the pants. So as long as they're big enough and stretchy enough, you wouldn't have tight ones, then effectively we're now wearing the pants on the outside of the sling. I'm not sure if this is helpful for you, but it's something that we know has happened. And it means you actually get more access. Just hook it up and show you. So again, just going on the screen. Okay. So wearing them on the outside means that they've got more, you know, dignity. We'll transfer them to the commode or the toilet now, but we can see they do stretch, but if we take them down, then it actually pulls further back, giving more access. And hopefully you can see that, just to give you a little bit, because it's difficult. Removing clothing is not going to be easy. We know that. It's a fiddle, so we need to make sure we've got loose, baggy clothing in order to help the carer to take the clothing down. So just a little sharing, just a little tip there. So that is the best case scenario. So with this style, think about someone that's got good to reasonable upper body strength. That's the most important thing when considering this shape. Thank Julie asked for that, so that's good. Thank you. So moving on then, if we have got someone that's got more variable tone, what would we think about then? We've got a range, our continental range, which is this colour. It's slightly different. It's very structured. It's got foam panel within the back and the legs. So it's quite a structured sling made in a structured polyester that's got a nice natural sheen, which helps to get it into tighter chairs. Deeper back, so straight away you can see it's much deeper, so it will give more support to the upper body, but reasonable access to the waistline, so you can still, carry out a hygiene transfer if needed. I'll just zoom in a little bit on the label. So all Silvalea slings now are woven labels, so it will help to prevent fading and them being washed out. Lots of information on the label, safe working load, sizing, codes. So alongside the main label, we have a sizing label there. On the back, there's a date of manufacture and a serial number label. So that serial number is unique to this product if we need to trace it. So it's there. Standard slings have a weight limit of 220, 35 stone. So even the smaller sizes, extra small to extra large, will have the same safe working load. And that's because everything on here has been tested and calibrated to take in excess of that weight. They're made in exactly the same way, just smaller or larger sizes. So it can reassure you that the sling is fit for purpose and will take the weight required. The webbing, the way everything's stitched on, the binding, stitches per inch, everything's been calibrated to ensure that we do have a suitable product. The washing instructions are on there, maximum washing temperature. Some fabrics can be a bit more delicate, so they may require a lower washing temperature or no drying. With this one, if it's dried too high, we can always tell because the foam within tends to ruckle and shrink. So we can tell then that it's not been laundered correctly. So it's really important to check the information on the label for laundering. And also it's really important that you check the label every time you use a sling. You must be able to read the label. It's got to be legible to comply to Lola. So Lola requires that the label is legible and any safety information is clear. So if you have a label that's faded, you need to withdraw it really. So withdraw the sling from use. So let's go back to this one then. So I'm going to put this on Julie. Oh, actually, before we do, if you hold that, we've got two in this family basically. This is the low convenience. The low convenience is a sling that has padding, enables the arms to be on the outside. So to help convenience yourself. So that's the low convenience. The low back one, so they're both very similar, is slightly cut higher at the back, so it enables you to have your arms on the inside, which may be helpful, but the same access, the same aperture from the waist down. I'll explain that a little bit more when we put it on. But they're part of our continental range, although they're standard slings. They're popular on the continent where they like more structured slings and more robust fabric. So hence why it's the continental name. The other feature actually is this waist support. So with this one, the low convenience and the low back, you have an elasticated waist support, which is detachable. So it can be removed. A really good feature. It's really stretchy. It hugs around the body and you can stretch it into position so it won't slacken off like the previous one. So quite a nice style. And then there's extra tabs to really fit it firmly. So these come as standard with this continental low back and the low convenience. So it means that you can interchange them. If you've got somebody that needs smaller waist support or a bigger one, then you can request that. So that's quite nice. And they just feed through this channel at the back here. Slide it through there and round like that. Again, it's got Velcro on, so always encourage carers to close it so it doesn't snag on things when it's not in use and when laundering. Put it on Julie now, and as I said, it's because it's firm, you can slide it into tighter chairs. And again, Julie can put that round waist, it's waist support, so waist level. And also, because of the legs have these foam sections in, you can insert them into tighter chairs and they glide in a little bit more easily if we have got that situation. Cross them through and we'll put it up. The yellow shoulder. So this is the low convenience. So there, remember that it's got padding under the arms, so that will help you to remember that the arms are on the outside. And certainly refer to the website if you need confirmation, because that will show you the images, good images. So unlike the first one, this waistband hasn't slackened off. So it's stayed in position and it's stayed very firm. And we can just see the access. So the access is not as good as the first one, but certainly it's ample access there for a hygiene transfer. Deeper back. So a lot more support to the back section. There are bones in the side there that can be taken out, or it just gives that extra support because we're looking at someone that's got variable perhaps. So not poor, it's good to variable tone, and it will give that support there. Arms here, padding under the arm here for comfort. But a nice supportive sling. A lot of we've found over the years that a lot of stores are preferring this style because it gives them more confidence than the first style, and there's not so much potential for slipping through because it's giving that extra support. So it is a popular style, one of our best sellers, this particular one. But the other one which I showed you was the low back. I'm just going to put this around Julie so we can see exactly the same lower section. So it will fit at the waist level. Thank you, Jess. But it comes around the shoulders here. So it worked that way. And quite useful if you've got someone that has pain putting their arms over the top. Maybe they've had a mastectomy or a stroke and they can't put their arms over. So it would mean they can have their arms in. So thinking about that, we need to then make sure that they're not going to slip because their arms are on the inside. And if they have got shoulder problems, an important thing is to remember the spreader bar width, because if you've got shoulder problems and you're putting a sling on that's narrow, it's going to protract the shoulders and may add to the pain. So think about the width of the spreader bar to make sure it's wide, as wide as the shoulders, and doesn't cause them additional pain. So those are the low convenience arms out, low back, arms in. Let me see, Alice, how are we doing for any questions on those two?
No questions yet, Mandy.
So we're moving on now to more challenging situations. So what do we do if we've got someone that has lots of movement, they're more active, but still want to carry out a toilet transfer? So we have got a solution in our Continental Easy Access. Let's just move that. Julie, can you hold this up for me? So this is quite the ultimate in toileting slings. Looks a little bit more of a fiddle, extra tapes, etc. But it will give a lot of support. So a lot of back support, head support, will enable a floor pickup. It's part of the Continental family, so it's got foam throughout it, so to the back and the legs, which makes it easier to slide in, as mentioned before. But from the inside, it wraps around the trunk. It's going to wrap around the trunk, so effectively you're wearing the sling. Extra tape, but if we just put it on slowly, and I'll explain. So it can be applied on the bed or in the chair. Now, because it's firm, it will slide down, and we're only getting it to the waist level. So we're not struggling to get it right down here. It's waist level. So this is a thoracic section, and the thoracic tapes cross over and feed through the loop on the opposite side. So we've got that fitting like that. The legs have foam in as before, and they apply in the usual way. And across. So we've got legs, we've got the trunk. So this thoracic trunk section has got various options depending on what's needed and how firm we need to apply this. It's going to give the support we need. So we're looking at someone with really variable to low tone. And then the third tape is a counterbalance. So you need to put your arms through. So the counterbalance will allow movement because it will roll on top of the other tapes. It's got a slider that you can alter the positioning. So if you need to extend slightly to pick up in more reclined position, we can extend it. There are some bar tacks and markers to give you a starting position. So we've got it positioned on one of them so that you can see how it looks when we hoist it. So building it from the bottom, then we'll do the legs. So we're going on the long leg. Now we're doing red. As I said, if you've only got 2 hooks, make sure the counterbalance strap is on last so that it flows. If there is some movement, we've got it on top of the other tapes. If there's a third hook, then put it on the outside. Okay, so just take it up slowly, just check we've got it on the right setting. So we've got legs. The thoracic section is going to fit very firmly. It's going to close around. So we're looking at this wrapping around the body. It shouldn't overlap. Okay. So let's have a look then from the side. And then from the back. So good back support here, but still really good access. So the area here is reasonable for, you know, your toilet transfer. If Julie was just to push back a bit and extend, can you go any further?
No, that's as
She's
far as I can
trying.
go.
But if she extends, this counterbalance and then relax will flow over through here. Can you go back again? So we can see it will move but it's controlling her. It's really controlling her. The sling will do that job. Really supportive. It's going to fit firm. So we're looking at, you know, a tight, firm fit. So it will have its drawbacks if someone, you know, doesn't like that restriction. So you need to remember that. Also, because it's going to fit very firmly around, it might bite in. So anyone that's overly shapely, just think about whether it bite in around their body there. But it has been a great solution for someone that is really active. Can you put your arms up, Julie? Can you fall through? Right. She's trying to fall through. But you've got to think about the fit. If it's too loose, then it may be you need to tighten it. So it's got to fit firm. it's too big, naturally you'll get someone that could potentially slip through, but make sure it's the right size. Again, check the sizing. It's loose here, so anyone that's got a peg, you've not got the waistband that will affect a peg, so you've got a good free area there. So, you know, lots of pluses. Though it's a bit more fiddly to put on, you know, you've got extra tapes to think about. It is useful. It's almost the ultimate for toileting slings. The underneath the arm, can you see? It wraps around the trunk. It will fit and give an uplift. So, you know, it will fit firmly for ladies. If we just, I'm just going to alter and just try it slightly more reclined, so we can just see. If we do, we're just going to just take it off. I'm going to put the shorter leg on, so I'll just take the waist down, going on the yellow leg, the outer shoulder, and I'm just going to extend the counterbalance just a few inches, centimetres there, half, yeah. And we'll just see whether we've got a slightly different position. And just, as I say, right, it will sort of slightly recline duly. Might be a better, more comfortable position. Does that feel better? So adjustable like that. You can get your hand in here, so it's not fitting as firmly this way. But if you can you extend? There's some really good images on the website actually of a real active user with this. And if you can slump, arms up, she's right. She's really trying. And you, yeah, that's as far as she can go. I mean, you know, you wouldn't be in this sling for this length of time. So certainly, it's, you know, we're getting from A to B as quickly as we can. But an option, certainly an option for those active situations. So that's the Continental Easy Access. Again, look on the website. There's lots of helpful information regarding it. So we've got the next situation is, what would you do? Thank you, Julie. If we have an amputee scenario, maybe high through hip, still needs access for toileting, what type of sling would you use for that? We have the recline. This is a recline shape, which is very popular for amputees, all types of scenarios. But if they need to have one with an aperture, then we can do, let's just swap this over, a version with an aperture, and hopefully, let me see if I can angle this so that you can see the aperture here. Hopefully we've got, this is my dummy, it's got a high through hip and a long leg, but if we can just, hopefully you can see the colour, there we go, of the suit to show you the access. So if we have that type of situation, we can use the recline sling with an access, an aperture built in, and then you just need to position it. This one is a superfine plus fabric, so a spacer fabric that we can, you know, use for longer term use. If you've got one with an aperture though, you need to be careful. There's a it'll be a bound edge there, so it may mean that you need to have two, one for hygiene transfers and one for longer term. It's a great sling that needs to be applied on the bed. It's all in one. It comes through the legs, and you've got a pommel strap here for extra security, and this helps to lift between the legs, to lift and distribute the legs or leg more. It can have a waist support. I've just put a little detachable one in there. If you need, if you've got someone that's got a bilateral through hip situation, and that you're worried that they will be, too upright, then maybe security of a waist support is helpful. The other thing that's quite nice as an accessory is a neck roll. So neck rolls are an accessory that is detachable and can nestle in the neck like that. Sometimes better than a full head support. And they just secure to the shoulder tape through the slider, can be positioned to the side. So if you've got someone that leans, a little bit more extra support in the neck there that can feed round and connect to the tapes there. So this style you can use for all scenarios. The as long as you can apply it on the bed. But yes, the other thing is we've got a hip tape. So the hip tape is an addition. It actually slots onto a loop that's there. Provision for a tape is already there. Hip tapes are great to help with weight distribution. If you can see, if I hopefully can angle this, if I put this on, lift this, it's lifting the hip. So if I just put it on there, we'd have to take the weight off, of course, and adjust it, but it will help then lift that area. So if someone's slumped, they need a bit more support, lifting and distributing the weight's really good, and it will also take pressure from behind the knee. It comes on a slider, so the slider there is adjusted to give the right tension, and the tension is the same as the leg, so pick up simultaneously as the leg section. If it's too loose, it won't do anything, and if it's too tight, it's going to lift the hips first. Let me just explain. It is on a slider there. Let's just bring it forward a bit. Just want to explain the slider. Once you've got it in to the right position, push the buckle down out the way. Some have a D-ring, so a little metal D-ring, which we're trying to replace now with this plastic slider, so it's less clunky. But if you've got the metal D-ring, just push it out the way once it's set. But it's basically there, the slider or the D-ring is there, so that if I extend this, I don't lose the loop. You're not then fighting to open that loop. So that's why the D-ring or the slider's there. But once you've got it set, push them out the way. But good as a solution if you're trying to balance up the pickup. If you've got someone that really leans to one side, then you can adjust the sliders slightly asymmetrically to help lift one side up. So quite capable of doing that if you need to, rather than have someone trying to hold someone in place. The sling can be adjusted accordingly. So lots of adjustment on that with the hip tapes. Any questions, Alice, on this one?
No outstanding questions.
Right, so finally, the last style for toileting sling solutions is if you have a clip hoist. Not sure how relevant this is, but I will explain. So a clip hoist, different configuration, nice open wishbone shape. But if you can see, this type of hoist has a little stud, which requires a different type of fixing. And we have a sling that has these clips on. They clip off and then clip on. It's called a universal clip. So the sling needs those clips. So we've got shoulder and leg, very simple. There's not a lot of choice. You can't then adjust it. But this toileting sling is very similar to the very first one we looked at, whereas it's got the waistband, good access, but it's got a built-in head support. So the head support's there because this hoist naturally finds the centre of gravity, which is normally in a reclined position. So we need good back and head support for this particular hoist configuration. And because the leg sections aren't coming through and going up to the hoist up here, the legs are shorter. So it's a very specific style. but use it the same way. It will have the same limitations. Apply it low, make sure you've got the waistband fitted firmly, and follow all those tips. Arms are on the outside. You need to undo the head support tape to get the arms over, and then clip it in and adjust for the transfer there. But that's the high easy toilet sling for the clip hoist. So on the website we have the slings divided into clip hoists or standard. So if you've just got this type of configuration, then you can go straight to that section, show you all the slings on there for the stud hoists. So they are all the slings I'm going to cover in this session. Hopefully it's helped a little bit, and that you find the information helpful. I think Alice will have sent out the data sheets for the slings we've covered, but if not, they're on the website. So please, refer to that if you need any extra information, or come back to us and we will help as much as we can. But thank you for your time. Thank you for Julie for helping me, and to Alice and James for their input. Any final questions, Alice?
I don't think we have any additional questions. Oh, we do. Do you advise on the website how to measure for the aperture on the website?
Okay, so the aperture, the actual formula is set regardless. So you need to look at the sling shape. So certainly the first sling, the access sling, it fits here. So it's waist level, the aperture is there. So it's all depending on the size. You need to check on the sling size whether it's the right fit here, the right length. Sometimes you have to measure underarm to waist to make sure it's deep enough. But the aperture size depends on the style. So the biggest aperture is the access sling. Then the low back, low convenience is waist level down, etc. So there's no measurement for an aperture, only for the sling.
I think they're thinking for the recline aperture, Mandy.
Okay, recline, sorry. No, there is a standard measurement. If you request that recline, then there's a formula and positioning for standard positioning. If you've got someone that's very asymmetrical, maybe then they aren't a standard position in the sling, then we can help you. Certainly we can tell you roughly where the measurement will be, and then you can check that in case it needs to be adjusted and more custom made for you. But it will be in a standard position, and we will work that out for you on standard sizes. Anything else, Alice?
I don't think we have anything else. The only thing I was going to add is I have attached the data sheets to the invite for today's session. So if you want them, you'll find them there. And also to say that the recording will be going on our YouTube channel, which I will email out the link later, as well, along with some feedback information. So if you've got any feedback, we'd be really grateful for anything you have.
I saw a question about borrowing slings. Certainly we have a few that we can help you with, as long as we've got the right size. Talk to us. If you have a situation where you need to try something, which obviously is the only way of working out if it will be successful, we will help as much as we can. So thank you. Thanks, everybody, and hopefully I'll see you again in future sessions.
Oh, we have another question, Mandy. Sorry. Can you please give an example of when we would use the in situ sling with an aperture? I tried this once, but we had the hoist, the service user using a universal onto the bed, then complete a log roll to remove the sling, then another log roll to fit the in situ aperture sling. But by that stage, it was too late and they couldn't wait that long and soiled themselves. It didn't work, so wondering if you have any tips.
Okay, we do. So leaving a sling in place is a big subject, and it's all about balancing the risk, isn't it? Working out whether it's better to leave it in quicker, but then we've got to weigh up whether there's any pressure problems, etc. So it's a big subject, and if we've worked out that we need the sling to allow for toileting, then we can offer a range. So if you look on the website under the in situ section, there's a couple of divided leg slings, the straight leg and the deluxe leg. Both of those slings can allow, like we talked very early on in this session, the general purpose shape. It will give enough access for toileting, but you've got to weigh it up whether you want to leave the sling in or not. But it's another session, but certainly there are a few options on the website. If you look in the in situ section for a couple of options of a divided leg slings that will allow that. Anything else? We okay? Okay, that's interesting, Holly, who's just come back with that. Yes, it's all about risk assessing. So, if you have sometimes the reclined sling, which will have no aperture, very smooth, and can be left in more confidently without any binding issues. That's a good sling for in situ use, but it won't suit certain conditions. So then you need something like the deluxe leg that's got individual paddles around the leg, will give extra support, will be more suitable for someone with a bit more movement. But then you've got the aperture, and it's positioned quite low. Certainly if you're in a chair, in a divided leg sling, in a suitable fabric, take the legs to the side, remove them to the side, then there's very little sling left under to cause a problem. But I'm doing an in situ session soon. Hopefully you'll have the information on the programme of dates for the next month. So if you've got chance, please join me then and we can go through that in more detail. So thanks everybody, and see you soon, hopefully. Thank you.